Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I have my meditation book with me today, and I thought that I would look to see what today's meditation is and read it to you guys and get right into it. I've been skipping quite a few days because I've been responding to comments, you guys know, in the past, and just in the last week I've started getting back into some of the meditation. So if I don't like today's meditation, I might go back and read a meditation from, I don't know, the last month or something like that. We'll just kind of skim through here and see. But today's meditation might be good. So let's see what it says. Today is September 24th. September 24th. Ooh, September 30th, not a victim. That might be a good one, but we'll wait till then. Okay, September 24th. Today's meditation is allowing ourselves to be needy. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, allowing ourselves to be needy, September 24th. We can accept ourselves as people who have needs. The need for comfort, love, understanding, friendship, healthy touch. We need positive reinforcement, someone to listen to us, someone to give to us. We are not weak for needing these things. These needs make us human and healthy. Getting our needs met, believing we deserve to have them met, makes us happy. There are times, too, when in addition to our regular needs, we become particularly needy. At these times, we need more than we have to give out. That is okay, too. We can accept and incorporate our needs and our needy side into the whole of us. We can take responsibility for our needs. That doesn't make us weak or deficient. It doesn't mean we are not properly recovering, nor does it mean we're being dependent in an unhealthy way. It makes our needs and our needy side manageable. Our needs stop controlling us and we gain control. And our needs begin to get met. Today I'll accept my needs and my needy side. I believe I deserve to get my needs met, and I will allow that to happen. Interesting meditation. You know, I think that the word needy, it's interesting where my head goes when I'm reading these meditations, because it always goes in like 50 different directions, you know? And I kind of just go with what my gut is telling me to talk about whenever I respond to these meditations. You know, I've shared this before, but back in the day, like, my friend Tanya Jean and I would, like, call each other on the phone, and we would read the meditation, and we would just, like, talk to each other about it. And this is kind of what this reminds me of, or these videos remind me of. So I kind of just, like, go with whatever I'm thinking. You know, I think the word in our society, needy, has a negative connotation. And I think that the word needy today, well, the way that I would look at it, if somebody said to me that, oh, so-and-so is needy, I would think that that meant that they were clingy, that they were calling all the time, that they were rather selfish, that they were always just talking about themselves, and they relied on people to fulfill all their needs. I think that's kind of the definition that I would look at for needy today in my life. If somebody defined somebody as needy, if somebody called me up and said, oh, this person's needy, that's what I would think of. So I guess it kind of depends on whatever you think your definition of needy is. But I think that when we say somebody is needy today in society, I think that that has a rather negative connotation, you know? And I'm sure that at any given, I think I've been called that a few times in my life. I'm sure some of you out there have been called needy a few times in your life. I think we all have. And I think the times that I've heard that from people, I mean, it's been a long time. I think it was in, like, romantic relationships, probably even maybe before I got sober. You know, what I heard was, you're too much. Like, you need too much from me and I can't give this to you, kind of thing. You know, it's interesting because I have kind of a different perspective of that today in relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships like in my marriage. I'm talking about really this, I think, applies more to friendships, the way that I would look at it today. You know, I've had friends of mine in the past that were very, very needy. I actually don't think I've ever had a friend say to me, you're too needy as a friend. I'm actually somebody as a friend that kind of doesn't reach out until I really, really need something, and then I ask for it. But I forever had a really, really hard time even asking for things. It was something that I had to learn over time, to ask people for things, to ask people for help in situations and whatever. Like I was talking about my friend Tanya and I have kind of this thing that we do where, you know, like, we'll call each other and talk every night. And if one of us needs to talk, we'll be like, can I just vent for a second? You know, I've talked about that on here before. And sometimes that's all I need from somebody, is just to vent, just to get something off my chest and just be like, this is what I'm going through and whatever. You know, it's interesting when we talk about needy, because, like, as I'm thinking through this, I'm kind of almost the opposite of that a little bit. You know, like, I'll talk about something a couple different times to a couple different people, like, you know, talk about it in the vlog or whatever, and then talk to a couple friends about it, my husband, and then I'm kind of talked out about it. Like, sometimes people will call me up and they'll say, oh, like, I'm what's going on with this or whatever, and I just, to be honest with you, I don't even really have it to have the conversation yet again with another person, you know what I mean? So I think that the idea of being needy in our society has a negative connotation. I think to develop relationships, to develop romantic relationships and friendships with people, that I think fulfilling somebody's needs should be, you know, given both ways. When I look at my friendships in my life today, my relationships in my life today, I hope that I give as much to them as they give to me, right? Like, I don't define any of my friends today as needy. They don't feel that. When they call me up, I know that they need me, but it doesn't feel like they're needy. It doesn't, like, feel like that clinginess, like, that they're calling me for every little thing. You know what I mean? I mean, I've had relationships like that in my life where I feel like I'm the end all, and then what I find out is that I'm not the end all. You know, it's like they're doing the same thing to me that they're doing to 5 or 6 other people, where they're calling everybody and they're just lamenting about their life, and it's like they're going through their list of people just to tell them, each person, like, how bad their life is. That's not the relationships that I have in my life today. The relationships that I have in my life today, when people reach out to me, they reach out to me because I know that they need me. They need to either vent, or they need to help with coming up with a solution, or they're really going through a tough time and they want some support, or they need a shoulder to cry on, or they need a friend. It doesn't feel needy to me. It doesn't feel in any way negative. It feels good that it feels nice that they're reaching out to me, that they want some support from me, that they feel that I'm a good enough friend, a good enough person in their life, that they would reach out to me. And I think that's the thing, right? Like, it's my third mention of my friend Tanya in this video today. I learned this from my friend Tanya. I can remember back in the day, my mom, like, wanting to do something for me. I can't even remember. It wasn't like a birthday or Christmas or anything like that. She just wanted to do something special for me. And I was kind of like, Mom, no, you don't have to do that, blah, 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 whatever. And I remember my friend Tanya said to me, sometimes you have to allow people to do stuff for us. Like, I know it's hard, because as addicts and alcoholics especially, I think we have a hard time asking people for help. We have a hard time taking help. I don't know if you relate to that at all, but my whole life, I've had a hard time, like, taking help from people, asking people for help. I'm better at it today. I've learned a few lessons in my life where I've learned to ask for help, and it just makes life easier. You know, the worst I can say is no, kind of thing. And so I've learned some lessons in my life that way. But, you know, through that lesson, when Tanya said to me, like, let your mom do this for you, it'll make her happy to help you. You know, what I've learned is that when people ask me for help, or they want to vent, or they want to talk, or they want me there through their tough time in their life, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel needed. It makes me feel wanted. It makes me feel like I'm helping them in their life. It makes me feel like, you know, I mean something to them, that I'm important to them. And so I don't think people needing us is necessarily a negative thing, you know? I think it's how we ask sometimes. I think to call somebody up the phone and just want to complain for hours 5 times a week, I think that can be a little bit needy, you know? I think it kind of comes to the point where you have to say to somebody, like, I think at this point, maybe, like, this is getting to be a lot, like, maybe you need some help, or maybe you need to go talk to somebody. Like, I can help you do that, I can help you find somebody, but this doesn't seem like I'm helping you a lot. I'm sure we've all had that friend, that it's like, they're, like, it's like they're, you know, like, they get off work, and then they, like, get the kids settled, and then they, you know, get the cup of coffee, and they sit down, they're like, they pick up the phone, they're like, oh my God, I've had a day, and it's just like 30 minutes of them telling you about their day, which is really about, like, them doing this and then doing that, and then you're like, okay, then they never once ask you about you, and then the next day they're like, oh my God, I've had such a day. And it's like every day they do that. It's like, okay, so you're kind of their therapy session at the end of the day. I mean, I've had friendships like that. I haven't in a long time had friendships like that, but I've had friendships like that 10, 15, 20 years ago, you know? And I think at that time, I felt like, okay, this person, like, I felt like that kind of defined our relationship a little bit. Like, oh, but what I realized was I was rather replaceable as the other person on the phone. I mean, I was. They weren't ever asking how I was doing. You know, I can remember a couple of those people, when I would reach out to them and stuff, it was crickets, you know? So it was like, reciprocal was the word I was looking for earlier. The relationship wasn't reciprocal. I don't think there's anything wrong with needing something from a friend, or desiring support or help from a friend, or from a loved one, a family member, you know, a partner, a spouse, whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong about that. I don't think there's anything wrong in being needy, you know? I think, like, we think that for us to be needy today, and I'm talking about emotional neediness, I think for us today, when we think about being needy, we think of that as a weakness. We think as, I think we look in society today as you're either weak or you're strong. If you cry, you're weak, If you don't cry, you're strong. Well, I throw those rules out the window. I think those rules are BS, I think sometimes I find my strength in asking for help. I think sometimes I find my strength in being needy and needing somebody to help me, I can remember years ago this analogy that was given to me because I thought I could do everything, on my own. And I said, and this came into like the whole idea of like a power greater than myself, which isn't necessarily a spiritual ideology, right? We think of that today in recovery, that we say a power greater than ourselves, that means God or something like that. But that doesn't have to be the case. And I can remember this friend of mine, like early sobriety, pointing to this couch and being like, can you pick up that couch and move it by yourself? And I was like, I could drag it. And he was like, no, can you like pick up the couch, pick it up and move it on your own? And I was like, no, there's no way. It was this huge couch, right? And he was like, do you think that you and I could pick up the couch and move it together? And I was like, yeah, I think that we could probably pick up the couch and move it together. He goes, so you and I are power greater than one. You and I together can move this couch in a way that you couldn't move that couch at all. He goes, if you needed to move the couch, could you ask me to help you move the couch? I go, well, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably try to drag the couch first. He goes, why? What's that resistance? He goes, when you know it's going to be easier. You just told me it'll be easier for us to move the couch together. Why would you not ask for help? And I think it goes back to that ideology of, well, if I'm asking for help, then that makes me weak. I think we live in this world today that we have to be independent. We have to be on our own, When you look back culturally, communities were built on neighbors helping each other, on people within communities helping each other. But we are so afraid of that today. We're so afraid of reaching out and asking a friend or a family member for help, We're afraid of letting our spouse or our partner see us as weak or crying because then they'll think less of us. And I call BS on that. I think that's crap, I cry all the time. I cry in my videos. I laugh all the time. I joyfully laugh, hysterically laugh, simply laugh. I cry out of joy, I cry out of sadness, I cry out of frustration sometimes. I don't think that makes me weak. I actually think that people that criticize weakness and criticize crying and criticize things like that, it's because they don't know how to express their emotions adequately, so they have to come down on other people that do. And that's kind of what I've learned in the world, right? Is that when we criticize others for how they're expressing emotion or how they're asking for help, because it really says more about us, right? That maybe in those moments, we can't ask somebody for help. So we have to say that. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that are clingy and needy and things like that. And if you've heard it enough from one person or 10 people, maybe take a look at that, I think it's also unfair to just kind of use that word, needy or clingy, and then just not go into more explanation about that. I've had friends of mine that have had, partners of theirs, boyfriends, girlfriends, that will say they're too needy or too clingy, and they'll say, I don't really know what they meant by that. And I'll say, well, have you asked? I'm talking about friends of mine that I don't think that they're that way. And I'll say, well, did you ask them? And they'll say no. And I'll say, well, like, how many times a day are you texting them? And I'm expecting to hear like 40, right? Because I would think 20 to 40 times of texting a day, that's needy or clingy. And they'll be like, I don't know, like I text them like, in the morning when I get up, and, maybe at like, in the afternoon, just ask them how their day is going. And then like, are we going to get together for dinner tonight? And that's it. I'm like, that's it? They're like, yeah. And they're like, that's too much. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't about you. That's not clingy. That's not needy, and in all honesty, I think it's kind of how, maybe this is what I'm coming to right now. It's kind of how you define it. I want people in my life today that want to reach out to me, that want me to text them, that want me to call them. I want people in my life today that want to text me and want to call me. I have a very small group in my life today, but I can tell you the people that I have in my life, I hear from on a daily basis. Every single day we text each other about serious stuff, about random stuff. My husband and I, we text each other throughout the day. And that's just how it is. And I don't think that that's needy, and I don't think that that's clingy. Maybe somebody else would define it that way. That's why I'm probably not in their life, and that's probably why they're not in mine. The people that I have in my life today are people that we have reciprocal relationships of emotional desire, and if you want to call that neediness, maybe it is. But I think that one of the things that's missed out on this a lot is that when we talk about this, there's something that we gain greatly from being support to somebody that needs us in those moments. And so when people don't ask for us for help, it takes away what we're able to offer that relationship, you know? When you look back on your relationships that you've had with family members, when these relationships you've had with friends of yours or coworkers or even spouses or, you know, romantic partners, when you look at those relationships, if you look back on some of the greatest moments or some of the most powerful moments or the most profound moments of your relationships, some of those moments were probably getting through the strongest, the hardest times, right? When you look back on those relationships and you remember like the really powerful moments, some of those big powerful moments were them helping you through hard times or you helping them through hard times or leaning on each other. So I think that it has this negative connotation that, you know, I'm needy. Well, okay, I'm needy, so what? You know, you're needy, so what? Let's be needy together, kind of. But I think when it becomes too much, that's when you have a conversation with somebody. You know, if somebody's texting you 40 times a day, just say, listen, like, I love you, I care about you, I don't need to hear from you 40 times a day. 40 times a day is a lot, okay? I think anybody, there's that one person out there that's like, well, I text my person for, I mean, if that's what your partner wants, then hey, more power to you. Text each other 100 times a day. I'm just telling you that that's how I define it. If somebody was texting me 40 times a day, I'd be like, this is a lot, okay? You know, unless we were having a conversation back and forth. But I'm just talking about like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, it's 1 o'clock, how are you doing? Hey, it's 2 o'clock, how are you doing? I mean, like, that's a lot, right? But when it goes back and forth and it's reciprocal, and I think that's it. You know, I think it's having conversations with people. We're afraid to do that. The tripod fell, right, as I was getting to the end of this. You know, we just want to say today, you're clingy and you're needy and not go into it any further than that and just let people thinking that, you know, they're the weirdest people in the entire world. Without saying, okay, well, I mean, because somebody might think, you know, that clingy is having to see somebody 3 times a week. You know, I mean, I have literally sat across the table from people that will be like, yeah, like, I'm dating this guy and, you know, he calls too much. And I'm like, well, how much, he's needy. And I'm like, well, how much does he call? He calls me like every night to say goodnight. I'm like, oh, I think that's nice. You know, have you guys had these kind of conversations before? And they're like, yeah, but it's too much. And I'm like, does he call you during the day? No, he doesn't call me during the day. He doesn't like really text me or anything like that. But every night it's like, you know, and I'm like, well, how many times do you see him during the week? And I'm like, and they're like, you know, I don't know. Like, you know, he wants to see me like once during the week and once on the weekend. It's just too much. Like, I've got to have my independence. And I'm like, well, how long have you guys been dating? 2 years. You know, it's just too, he wants to talk about us getting more serious. And I'm like, okay, this is not about the neediness. And that's really kind of what I've learned in my life is that when somebody else says that somebody else is like that severely needy or clingy without really giving definition to it, or their definition doesn't really match what really truly is clingy or needy, then really what it is that they really want out of that relationship, or they're not getting their needs met, or they're just really not putting that much energy into it, or it's something about them. I mean, at 52 years old, one of the things that I have learned in this world is that so many things that I made about me, so many things issues that people had and things that I took personally, getting my feelings hurt. This should be the meditation of the day that has really nothing to do with this. So many things that I thought in my life that really were personally about me really had nothing to do with me whatsoever. Like, that's one of the things I've really, really learned in my life today, you know, is that very little about what other people do or say or their reaction to things or responses to things really has very little to do with me whatsoever, you know? I mean, it really does. It has a lot to do with what's going on with them. And I'll tell you, how I know about that is that, you know, people will come back to me later and they'll say, you know, like, I'm really sorry for what happened at that time. Like, I was going through a really hard time. Like, you know, I had like lost a job, or I was really, really sick, or I was worried about, you know, or I was just, you know, I'd gone through this breakup. And I'm like, oh, that's totally cool. I totally understand that. Okay, it doesn't take away that you put me through hell at that time and you made it all about me, right? But that's what I've learned today, is that because, you know, I've learned that anger is a secondary emotion. So sometimes when people take out anger on you, what really is that they're suffering pain inside and they don't really know what to do with that pain. So instead of saying to you, I'm really struggling inside, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, they don't know how to say that. Like, we don't teach the words to say that today. And a lot of people don't have people to go to and talk to about that. So instead of saying that, instead what they say is they lash out. You're clingy, you're needy, you know, you're an emotional mess. I can't have you in my life. Well, it's too much, you know, and whatever. But yeah, I've sat across from quite a few people. I mean, I've sat across from my fair share of people that'll be like, so-and-so's needy. And I'm like, how are they needy? Oh my God, they text me like 40 or 60 times a day. What do they text you? Just like, hi, how are you doing? Hi, how are you doing? I'm like, okay, that's a lot. But then I've sat across a, you know, table from people or on the phone with people will be like, yeah, they're just like really clingy and needy, but you know, like they call me twice a week and I'm like, okay, that's not clingy or needy. You know, there's something else going on with you. And that's what I always ask people in my life when they say that stuff to me. I'm like, what's going on with you right now? Because I don't think this has anything to do with that person. And I've said this from the very beginning. A good friend will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, you know? When I'm going through something and I take something to my sponsor or my husband, or I keep on going over here because this is where he sleeps, my husband or my best friend or whatever, one of my other friends, and I say to them, like, I'm going through something, and they're like, it's not clicking for them. They'll be like, is something going on with you right now? Because this is not about, like, this other situation. And I'm like, yeah, there is something going on, you know? And that's where I think it's important to have honest friendships where we're talking to people, you know? And then if you do feel somebody's clingy, that's not necessarily a reason to get rid of a friend. That's not necessarily a reason to change being a friend or how you're being a friend. Maybe it's just you reset the boundaries of your relationship, you know? It's okay to ask somebody, hey, don't text me 50 times a day or 60 times a day, you know? It's okay to say to somebody, I want to have a relationship where I check in with you every night before you go to bed. And if you think that's needy, that should probably be a red flag that maybe isn't the relationship for you. I think that's nice. You know, personally, I think that's nice. My husband and I, we kiss each other goodnight every night before we go to bed, and we kiss each other. He comes over and kisses me goodbye every morning before he leaves. He kisses me when he comes through the door. I think that's nice. That's the kind of relationship that I want. I have friends in my life today that check on me on a daily basis. Hey, how are you doing? And I check on them, and I text them, hey, just want to let you know, I hope you have a nice day today. How are you doing today? I want those kinds of relationships in my life. If somebody else doesn't, that's completely fine. But that doesn't make me needy or them needy, because we have different definitions of what a relationship should look like. So anyway, this is a good meditation. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.